Hello, friends. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am talking about this video, Albert Einstein's story, The Boy Who Changed the Way We See the Universe. In the year 1905, a young man sat at a small desk in a patent office. He was not famous. He was not rich. Nobody in that office knew his name. But in his mind, something incredible was happening. He was thinking about light. He was thinking about time. He was thinking about the entire universe. Within a few months, this quiet young man would change the way humans understand reality. His name was Albert Einstein. How did an ordinary boy, a boy who struggled in school, a boy who many people did not understand, become one of the greatest thinkers in human history? To answer that question, we have to go back to the very beginning. Albert Einstein was born in 1879 in a small city in Germany called Ulm. His family was Jewish, but not very religious. His father ran a small business that worked with electrical equipment. When Albert was a baby, something strange happened. He did not start talking like other children. His parents worried about him. Some people even thought something was wrong with him. But Albert was not slow. He was simply different. He was watching. He was listening. He was thinking long before he was ready to speak. When he finally did start talking, he did something unusual. Before saying a sentence out loud, he would quietly repeat it to himself. First, he wanted every word to be correct. This small detail tells us something important. Even as a small child, Albert Einstein cared deeply about understanding things fully. He was not in a hurry. He wanted to get things right. The boy who loved questions. When Albert was about 5 years old, he was sick in bed. To keep him entertained, his father gave him a small compass. Albert stared at the compass. No matter which way he turned it, the needle always pointed in the same direction. This amazed him. Something invisible was pushing that needle. He could not see it. He could not touch it. But it was real, and it was powerful. Many years later, Einstein said that this moment created a deep and lasting curiosity inside him. He wanted to understand the hidden forces of the world. Most children see a compass and think it is a simple toy. Albert saw a mystery. This is one of the first signs of how his mind worked. He did not just accept the world as it was. He wanted to know why it worked that way. As he grew older, this curiosity did not fade away. It grew stronger. School years and struggles. Many people believe that Einstein was a bad student who failed at math. This is not true. In reality, Einstein was excellent at mathematics and physics from a young age. However, school was not always easy for him, not because he lacked intelligence. He struggled with the German school system of that time. Schools in his city expected strict obedience. Students were expected to memorize facts and repeat them without asking questions. Teachers wanted order, not curiosity. For a boy like Albert, who loved asking why, this environment felt suffocating. He did not enjoy simply memorizing information. He wanted to understand. the reasons behind it. One of his teachers reportedly told him that he would never become successful in life. Imagine hearing that as a teenager from someone who was supposed to guide you. But Albert kept learning on his own. He read science books outside of school. He taught himself advanced mathematics before his classmates even reached that level. This is an important lesson in his story. Sometimes the people around you do not see your potential. That does not mean your potential is not there. Education and early challenges. When Albert was a teenager, his family moved to Italy for business reasons. Albert stayed behind for a short time to continue school, but he was deeply unhappy there. Eventually, he left the school without finishing and joined his family in Italy. At only 16 years old, he made another bold decision. He gave up his German citizenship. He wanted to study at a respected school in Switzerland called the Swiss Federal Polytechnic, often simply called the Polytechnic, in Zurich. His first attempt did not go as planned. He took the entrance exam early before finishing his official schooling. He did extremely well in math and physics, but not well enough in other subjects, so he did not pass the full exam. Instead of giving up, Einstein went to a school in the Swiss town of Aarau to finish his education properly, this time in a more open and encouraging environment. He did much better. In 1896, he was accepted into the Polytechnic in Zurich. There, he studied physics and mathematics, and there he also met a fellow physics student named Mileva Marek, who would later become his wife. Einstein graduated in 1900. You might expect that a future genius would immediately be offered an amazing job. That is not what happened. The patent office years. After graduating, Einstein struggled to find work. He applied to universities, hoping to become a teacher or a researcher. Again and again, he was rejected. For a while, his future looked uncertain. He took small temporary jobs just to survive. This was a difficult and frustrating period of life. Finally, in 1902, he found a stable position at the Swiss Patent Office. In the city of Bern, his job was to review new inventions and decide whether they deserved a patent. At first glance, this seems like an ordinary office job, far from the world of great science. But this job gave Einstein something extremely valuable, and that was time to think. His work required him to study machines and ideas carefully and to judge whether they were logical and correct. This actually trained his mind to analyze problems clearly and efficiently. During his lunch breaks and in quiet moments at his desk, Einstein continued thinking about deep questions in physics, questions about light, questions about motion, questions about time itself. Nobody in that office realized that one of their patent clerks was quietly building ideas that would soon shake the foundations of modern science. The incredible year of 1905. In 1905, everything changed. This year is now famously called Einstein's Miracle Year. while still working at the patent office and without access to a big university laboratory. Einstein published several scientific papers that would transform physics forever. This is remarkable because he did this work mostly alone, using deep thinking and imagination, rather than expensive equipment. Let us explore what made this year so extraordinary. The ideas that changed physics. The first major idea involved something called Brownian motion. Scientists had noticed that tiny particles floating in water seemed to move around randomly, and nobody could fully explain why. Einstein showed that this movement happened because of countless invisible molecules of water constantly bumping into the particles. This was powerful evidence that atoms and molecules truly exist, something that was still debated at the time. The second major idea explained something called the photoelectric effect. Scientists had observed that shining light on certain metals could cause them to release small particles of electricity. Einstein proposed that light itself is made of small packets of energy, later called photons. This idea helped lay the foundation for an entirely new branch of physics called quantum mechanics. Interestingly, this particular discovery, the photoelectric effect, is the work that later earned Einstein the Nobel Prize, not his more famous theory of relativity. Then came the idea that would change everything: special relativity. For centuries, scientists believed that time moved at the same steady speed for everyone, everywhere. Einstein questioned this assumption. He proposed that time is not fixed. Time can move differently depending on how fast you are traveling. Someone moving very fast experiences time slightly differently than someone standing still. This idea seemed almost impossible to believe, but Einstein showed, using clear logical reasoning, that it must be true. E=mc² explained simply. From this same work came one of the most famous equations in human history, E=mc². Let us break this down in a simple way. E stands for energy, m stands for mass, which basically means how much matter or material something contains. C stands for the speed of light, which is an extremely large number. This equation tells us something incredible. Even a very small amount of mass contains an enormous amount of hidden energy. Think of it this way: a tiny object might look small and harmless, but according to Einstein, if you could somehow convert its mass completely into energy, it would release a massive amount of power. This single idea eventually influenced many areas of science, including our understanding of stars, energy, and even nuclear power. How Einstein changed our understanding of time and space. Before Einstein, people imagined time and space as two separate and unchanging things. Time simply moved forward. Space simply existed around us. Einstein showed that time and space are actually connected, forming something scientists now call space-time. Motion, gravity, and speed can all affect how time and space behave. This might sound strange, even confusing, but this shift in thinking opened the door to a completely new way of understanding the universe. Instead of a fixed and rigid universe, Einstein revealed a universe that is flexible, dynamic, and full of surprises. The world finally notices Einstein. Even though Einstein published groundbreaking work in 1905, fame did not come to him immediately. Scientific ideas, especially ones this radical, take time to be understood and accepted. For several years, Einstein continued working, teaching, and refining his ideas, while slowly gaining respect within the scientific community. The turning point came later, when scientists found a way to actually test one of his boldest predictions, his rise to international fame. In 1915, Einstein completed an even bigger theory called general relativity. This theory explained gravity in a completely new way. Instead of thinking of gravity as an invisible force pulling objects together, Einstein described gravity as the bending of space itself. Imagine a heavy ball placed on a stretched sheet of fabric. The sheet bends around the ball, and anything rolling nearby will naturally curve toward it. This is similar to how massive objects like stars and planets bend the space around them. One dramatic prediction of this theory was that gravity from a massive object, like the sun, could actually bend the path of light passing near it. In 1919, during a solar eclipse, scientists organized an expedition to test this prediction. When the moon blocked the sun's light, they observed starlight bending exactly as Einstein had predicted. News of this discovery spread around the world almost overnight. Newspapers everywhere announced that a revolutionary new theory of the universe had just been confirmed. Almost instantly, Albert Einstein became one of the most famous scientists on the entire planet, the man behind the famous name. Despite his sudden fame, Einstein remained deeply curious and refreshingly humble in his approach to life and ideas. He often said that he had no special talent and that he was simply passionately curious. This single idea captures so much about who he truly was. He believed that imagination was extremely important, sometimes even more important than accumulated knowledge, because imagination allows a person to explore ideas that do not yet exist. Einstein questioned traditional authority and rigid thinking throughout his entire life. He never simply accepted an idea just because everyone else believed it. He always wanted to examine it for himself. He also had a playful and warm personality, despite being one of the greatest minds in history. He enjoyed simple pleasures like sailing, playing the violin, and having deep conversations with friends. His work on general relativity. Let us look a little closer at general relativity because it remains one of Einstein's greatest achievements. Before this theory, gravity was mysterious. Nobody could fully explain why objects with mass attract each other. Einstein's insight was revolutionary. He proposed that massive objects actually curve the space around them, and this curving effect is what we experience as gravity. Imagine the sun sitting in the middle of space, gently bending everything around it, similar to a heavy object, resting on a soft trampoline. Planets do not simply orbit the sun. Because of a mysterious pulling force, they follow the natural curve created in space by the sun's massive presence. This elegant idea helped explain observations that older theories of gravity could not fully account for, and it remains a fundamental part of modern physics today. Leaving Germany and starting a new chapter. As Einstein's fame grew, so did the political tension in Europe. During the 1930s, the Nazi Party rose to power in Germany, spreading hatred and violence, especially toward Jewish people. Einstein, being Jewish and internationally famous, quickly became a target. His work was publicly attacked. His life was even threatened. In 1933, understanding the extreme danger of the situation, Einstein made the difficult decision to leave Germany permanently. He would never return. This was not just a career change. It was a painful and emotional turning point in his life, forcing him to leave behind his home country during one of history's darkest periods. Life and work in America. Einstein eventually settled in the United States, taking a position at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. There, he continued his scientific research while also becoming a respected public voice on important global issues, including science, peace, and human rights. During this period, as the world moved toward war, and as new discoveries in physics revealed the possibility of extremely powerful weapons, Einstein became involved in urging government leaders to take these dangers seriously. Although Einstein's own scientific work was not focused on building weapons, his influence and warnings played a role in the historical events of that era, a responsibility he thought about deeply for the rest of his life. His later years and search for answers. In his later years, Einstein continued working tirelessly, searching for a single unified theory that could explain all the fundamental forces of the universe together. This ambitious goal, sometimes called a unified field theory, occupied much of his remaining time. Despite years of dedicated effort, he never fully achieved this goal before his death. This part of his story is important because it shows something deeply human about Einstein. Even one of the greatest minds in history could work for years without finding every answer he was searching for. Real scientific progress is not always a straight line toward success. Sometimes it involves long periods of searching, questioning, and simply not knowing yet. Einstein passed away in 1955 in Princeton, New Jersey, leaving behind a legacy that continues to shape science today. What we can learn from Einstein. So what can we really learn from the life of Albert Einstein? His story teaches us that intelligence, alone does not create greatness. Curiosity does. Persistence does. The courage to ask difficult questions does. Einstein struggled in a rigid school system, faced early career rejection, and worked for years in a quiet patent office job, yet none of these struggles stopped him. He shows us that great ideas do not always come from perfect circumstances. Sometimes they come from a curious mind, patiently thinking, even in the most ordinary of places. He also teaches us that imagination matters, the ability to picture new possibilities. Toa squatif kembes. Any textbook full of facts? A powerful, emotional conclusion. Albert Einstein once stared at a simple compass and wondered what invisible force could move its needle. That single moment of curiosity eventually led to ideas that changed how humanity understands time, space, energy, and the entire universe. He was not born already famous. He was not always understood. He faced doubt, rejection, and years of uncertainty. But he never stopped asking questions. Maybe the next great idea in your own life is not waiting somewhere far away. Maybe it is waiting quietly inside a simple question that you are brave enough to ask.